What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful, delicious, crispy skin, smoky, direct heat, crispy skin pork picnic ham. Coming up. This video is sponsored by Aura. More on that later. When looking at the anatomy of a pig, their front arm is very similar to ours in that it's got a shoulder, a bicep, a shin, and a foot. But in butchery terms, that would be the trotter, the shank, the picnic ham, and the Boston butt. And if you're like me, at some point along your barbecue journey, you went to the store to get yourself a pork butt for some pulled pork, and you ended up grabbing a picnic ham because they're always sold right next to each other. And the picnic ham is a different cut from the pork shoulder in that it's got more bones in it, it's got a bit more dark meat to it, not nearly as fatty and marbled, and it always comes with the skin on. Still a great barbecue cut, but not nearly as good as the Boston butt. But that being said, it does always come skin on, and I've always wanted to know if you could make some crispy skin pulled pork out of it, but I've never tried it for some reason. So that's what we're gonna be doing today, folks, and it is going to be delicious. This is a picnic ham. Patted dry. Beautiful looking cut. So on the pig, this would be the beginning of your leg. You'd have your shank right here, trotter at the end. Boston butt would live on this side. This right here is the beginning of your pork jowl, and this would be leading into the rib cage. And I believe this part right here is part of the pork brisket, which is another very fun cut to cook. But as you can see, there is no skin on this side, but the rest of it is totally covered in skin. And the beauty of this cut is we don't have to do any trimming whatsoever. And because we're making pulled pork, we're gonna be seasoning it with a mop sauce at the end of the day. So we really don't even need to season it, but we do need to salt the skin to make sure it gets nice and crispy. So first thing I'm gonna do is hit it with this. This is a meat tenderizer. So when you hit the skin, this goes back and all these little sharp blades are exposed. That's gonna put a lot of holes into the skin, which theoretically is gonna help it get crispy at the end by letting fat kind of render through and crisp it from all sides. So nothing to it. Looking good, bunch of tiny little holes in there. Probably can't see that on camera. Next up, I've got a little bit of white vinegar here, and I'm just gonna paint this on. This is gonna help start denaturing the skin a little bit, softening it up. I hear it does well. Never tried it before, but it's also gonna be really beneficial because it's gonna help all the salt stick to it. Speaking of salt, we're just gonna cover this thing really heavily. This isn't so much for seasoning as it is just for that salt to really draw all the moisture out of the skin. So when we flip it over at the end of this cook, we should be left with some really crispy skin. Traditionally at whole hog places, I see them using table salt all the time, which probably works a little bit better because it's a smaller granule size, but I don't have any of that on hand, so kosher salt it is. Another benefit of all this salt is it's gonna keep the smoke off the skin, which can tend to turn the skin kind of black and rubbery. And again, this is not for seasoning, so most of this salt will come off. But other than that, that is looking good to me. Let's fire up the mini chud box. Snake. And on we go with our beautiful pork picnic roast ham, whatever you want to call it. Going meat side down, skin side up for the majority of this cook until we're ready to flip it and crisp the skin. Now because this is direct heat, that underside, having no skin on it, is probably going to get toasted pretty hard. So we're very likely going to make a mop sauce. When we flip it, we can hopefully add some more flavor and tenderize that bottom. But until then, we're going to rock this thing right around 300 degrees for a very long time. Did you know there's a crime in this country greater than not seasoning the sides of your brisket? For years, identity theft has been the fastest growing crime in America, affecting millions of Americans. And there's a new victim every 14 seconds. Yet despite knowing this, those who have their identity stolen are always shocked when it happens to them. Imagine the feelings of fear, panic, and anxiety when you log into your email account just to find out that the password was changed hours ago, and you start getting notifications from your bank and credit cards saying there's activity on your accounts. That's not you. I mean, I get annoyed enough just by seeing people's Instagram accounts get hacked. And that's why I'm excited to partner with Aura, who's sponsoring this video. Aura is an identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, VPN password management, and antivirus software all combined in one easy-to-use app. When it comes to fraud, every second matters. Connect your bank accounts and credit cards and get notifications up to 4 times faster than Aura's competitors. Stay anonymous online and keep your personal information and browsing history safe and encrypted. Their antivirus software blocks malware and viruses before it has a chance to affect your devices. After signing up for Aura, I found out that my credentials were found on the dark web 16 times in one day. That means means my information is out there, and I don't want that. So if you sign up for Aura, drop a comment down below letting me know how many times your information was found on the dark web. So protect you and your family from America's fastest growing crime by giving Aura a try, free for 2 weeks using my code, and see if you or your family's information has been compromised. So to start your 14-day free trial, head to aura.com/chudsbbq. Link in the description. Head to aura.com/chudsbbq for a 2-week free trial and make sure your information is safe on the interwebs. Thank you, Aura. We're about 8 hours into this picnic ham cook, and this thing is looking good. Shrunk up quite a bit, starting to feel nice and tender on the edges here. Reading about 180 degrees internal, so it's time to flip it over. But first, we need to take off all this salt, which sometimes comes off in one big piece. Not the case today. Looking good, and as you can see, the skin is looking real nice. You can tell that fat under there is starting to render, but it's not dark, it's not too rubbery or anything like that. So when we flip it over, all this fat from under the skin will start dripping down. We should get a nice hot fire going, which should crisp this up. Bring it all the way to 200 degrees plus internal, and we should have a wonderful crispy skin pulled pork. Ooh, that looks so good. Look at that color. Oh, that is really hot. Oh, would you just look at that? I was worried about this bottom side getting toasted, and it does feel a little hard, but it's not nearly as dark or as charred as I was assuming it was gonna be. And it's at this point in any direct heat cook, whenever you flip something over that's got a fat cap, that you really gotta be careful, because all that fat's gonna start rendering out right onto the coals, and we are now in major grease fire territory. So you don't wanna walk away too far. But for now, we're gonna close this down, let it keep on cooking, get that fire nice and hot, and we should end up with some beautiful crispy skin. Let's make a quick mop sauce. Starting with a stick of butter that we're gonna melt until frothing. Once up to a simmer, we're gonna go in with some garlic. You could also go in with an onion at this time, but I don't have any onions on hand. We're also gonna go in with 1 lemon sliced up, and we're just gonna let that cook for a little bit. Once that garlic has softened up a little bit, we're gonna go in with some more ingredients, including some hot sauce. Ooh, I like it spicy. I like it tangy. As well as some paprika, couple tablespoons, some mustard powder, some red pepper flakes, a little bit of MSG, and some black pepper. Ooh, starting to smell good already. Next up, equal parts of apple cider vinegar and white vinegar going in, as well as a glug of some Worcestershire sauce. And again, if you've ever seen me make mop sauces on this channel before, you'll know that exact amounts of ingredients aren't really necessary. But if I was gonna give you one, I'd say a cup of each of the vinegars, maybe 1/4 cup Worcestershire, 1/4 cup hot sauce, tablespoon of all the spices. It really doesn't matter all that much. Just give it a taste. It should taste pretty strong, pretty tangy. And we're also gonna go in with a little bit of some granulated sugar just to round off that tang a little bit. Once up to a simmer, it's looking pretty good. It's tasting nice and tangy, nice and spicy, but we need to add a little bit more body. Oops. Perfect. I tell you what, folks, this is one of my favorite parts of barbecue right here. Mopping some big old piece of meat over some direct coals. All this sauce is gonna fall down, steam, get some wonderful flavors. All this sauce is gonna cook onto the meat, and it's also gonna soften up this rather hard underside that's been blasted with heat for the last few hours. But you know the drill from here. I'm just gonna keep on mopping this periodically for the next hour or two until that skin is nice and crispy and this picnic ham is ready to come off the pit. Something so old school about it. Also, smells fantastic. After about an hour or two on this underside, I've got a feeling that this crispy skin is nice and crispy. This underside is feeling, ooh, much better. Smells fantastic. I think it's time to pull this thing off. That is hot. Ooh, hot. Ooh, yes, sir. That is looking beautiful to me. Let's hear how that sounds. Nice and crispy. Yeah, I'd say that was a successful experiment. And if you ever go too far, you can just scrape those burned bits off. They'll never know. Spat don't lie. All right, it's time to pull this thing off and let it rest. Whew. Looking good to me. We're gonna let this rest for about 20-30 minutes, and then we will shred it to little pieces. All right, without further ado, I think it's time to see how this came out. Start by taking off all this crispy skin. Oh, that's a good sign. Ooh, ooh, bones coming out clean already. Love to see it. But before we shred this up, let's just take a look at this. Does it get any better than crispy pork skin? I don't think so. Oh, God, it's so good. All right, let's dive into this thing. Yeah, Ooh, nice clean bone. Big old bone in these picnic hams. God, that skin is addicting. Yeah, I'd say that's nice and tender, folks. Beautiful looking cut. Looks like some good pulled pork to me. This underside definitely has a bit more of a pork steak vibe to it, which is a-okay with me, but it's definitely a little tougher. But as you can see, it still shreds right apart. And all of that color and all that texture is gonna just add beautifully to this pulled pork. Another little bone in there. Yeah, that mop sauce did a good job of softening up this underside. There's a few hard pieces here and there. Still good for eating, or good for the pup, but oh, come on, folks. So here's the underside. You can see those grill marks on there. Still tender enough to pull apart, but if you really wanted to, you could get in there with a knife and give this the old choppa. Ooh, God, this smells so good. Nice and smoky, easily shreds apart. Beautiful pile of pulled pork with a bunch of crispy skin to go on top. Now again, we didn't season this from the get-go, other than the salt on the skin. So what I'm gonna do now is just take some more of our mop sauce and drizzle it all over. That's gonna add some nice heat, some nice acidity. It should give us a perfect tasting pulled pork. Taste it. If it needs salt, add some. If it needs heat, you know what it's like, folks. Make it your own. Let's give this a taste real quick. Oh my God. Like, what more do you need in life than that? I know I was kind of talking trash about this cut, how it's not as good as a pork butt, but you can't really tell. God, that is so good. I don't know why. I've always stayed away from the picnic hams, but this might change my mind. This is like a perfect go-to for a weekend party or something, because if you serve someone this bite, little crispy skin on some pulled pork, oh, that's it. The skin is nice and salty too. Mixes perfectly. This is by far the easiest way to get a somewhat whole hog experience in the backyard. So simple too. You know, no butchery, no special rubs, just a quick mop sauce and a few hours of pretty inattentive cooking. This is a keeper, for sure. But what's the point of making a whole bunch of pulled pork without a pulled pork sandwich? Get yourself a nice toasted Martin's potato roll, nice little mound of some pork on there. Get yourself some crispy skin right on top, maybe a little extra hot sauce, and there you have it. That's how you make a best friend right there, folks. Give this to any angry neighbor, they'll forgive you for eating pulled pork at 3 in the morning. That's it. It's so good. Ooh, the hot sauce. Nice touch. There's something to be said about a classic barbecue sandwich like this, you know? You can get as fancy as you want with your sauces, throw some coleslaw on there, pickles or whatever, but just pork on a bun with some crispy skin is all you really need at the end of the day. That is damn good. No more ignoring the picnic ham. I think it's time for the official taste test. Alright y'all, and that is it. That is how to make some absolutely fantastic crispy skin pulled pork using a pork picnic roast. I highly recommend giving this cut a try if you've never cooked it before, no matter what you're cooking on, whether it's an offset, a ceramic grill, gas grill, Weber Smoky Mountain. This cut is definitely worth giving a try. But that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you want to see me cook next. If you do give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace.